Welcome to Business Leader Breakthroughs, where we help unlock the potential in you, your teams, and your business. I'm your host, Ryan Castle, along with Dr. Mike Ashby. We'll share insights, experiences, and stories on achieving breakthrough success in business and life. To learn more, click the link in the episode show notes or go to thebreakthrough.co. Now let the breakthroughs begin.
Welcome to Business Leader Breakthroughs. Today, we're not just doing a podcast, we're throwing a grenade into outdated thinking about leadership and the future of work, and also how podcasts are generated. Here's the headline. 94% of Gen Z want nothing to do with traditional leadership roles. Why? Because they're done trading their well-being for status. They do want money, meaning, and mental health, and they're choosing employers based on whether they can grow. If your managers are still leading like it's 2005, Gen Z and Millennials are out. And they'll tell you most of the managers are missing the mark. That's where our Active Manager program comes in. Real leadership training that gets real results in just 2 hours a month. But we're not stopping there. This entire episode was built using AI. We use Google's NotebookLM to rip through Deloitte's 2025 global survey, extract insights at warp speed, and then supplemented with our own insights and knowledge. So here's your challenge. Is this the future of podcasting? Data dense, insight rich, AI powered? Is this the future of leadership? Practical, human, and built for the next generation. Hit play, decide for yourself, and tell us what you think.
Okay, let's unpack this. You see a finding like this from the latest Deloitte survey, right? Only, 6% of Gen Z said their primary career goal is getting to a top leadership spot.
Yeah.
I mean, if you grew up thinking success means, the corner office, that number feels, really small, almost surprisingly low.
It really does challenge that traditional idea of ambition, doesn't it? The whole corporate ladder thing.
Definitely. So that's what this deep dive is all about. We're getting into the sources, mainly that big Deloitte survey, to understand what Gen Z and Millennials actually want from their jobs.
And crucially, what they want from their managers. We've got some really interesting data here based on, over 23,000 people globally.
That's right, a huge sample. So our mission today is basically to pull out the key insights. What are these shifting priorities, and what does it all mean for workplaces and, especially for managers?
Okay, so let's dive right in with that Deloitte survey, that 6% figure for Gen Z leadership ambition. It's striking, but the source is pretty careful, isn't it? It says this isn't necessarily a lack of ambition.
Right, more like a shift, a different focus.
Exactly, a shift in focus, career progression, moving up, that's still important for them. But reaching the absolute peak, it's just not the main goal or maybe the only definition of success for the vast majority.
Okay, so if it's not just aiming for the very top spot,
Yeah.
what is it then? What are they prioritizing? The survey uses this term, the trifecta.
Yeah, the trifecta. Money, meaning, and well-being.
Money, meaning, well-being. Right.
And what's fascinating, and maybe not always obvious, is how tightly linked these three are in the data. Like, the survey highlights financial insecurity nearly half of both Gen Z and Millennials feel it.
Wow, nearly half.
Yeah. And it doesn't just cause stress, it actively sort of drags down their sense of well-being. And it even makes it harder for them to feel their work has meaning.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. It's
Yeah.
hard to focus on, higher purpose if you're constantly worried about rent or bills.
Exactly. Financial stability is kind of the bedrock. It lets you even start thinking about the other stuff.
So once that foundation feels a bit more solid, meaning really comes into play.
Hugely. The survey found something like 90% of both generations said having a sense of purpose is important for their job satisfaction and their well-being.
90%. That's massive. But what does purpose actually mean here? Is it always about, changing the world through your job?
Well, that's the interesting part. The survey suggests it's really subjective. For some, yes, it's definitely about the societal impact of their work.
Okay.
But for lots of others, the purpose they value might be external. Their job gives them the money or the skills or the time to pursue passions or make a difference outside of the 9 to 5.
Ah, so the job enables the purpose rather than being the purpose itself.
It can be, yeah. And the data really connects this to well-being, too. It showed, I think, 67% of Gen Z who felt positive about their mental well-being also felt their job made a meaningful contribution. Compared to only 44% of those with poor well-being. So there's a clear link there. It's not just about the tasks, it's how the work fits into and supports their broader life and values.
Okay, so well-being isn't just some nice-to-have perk.
Mm.
It's fundamental, tied to meaning, tied to stability. What else came up as a big priority?
Learning and development, L&D. It came up as one of the top 3 reasons they choose an employer, and also why they stay.
They want to keep growing, keep learning new things.
Constantly. And this desire, this need for continuous learning, it's getting amplified right now, especially with Gen AI becoming such a big topic.
Yeah, Gen AI. How does that fit in?
Well, the survey found about 3/4, 75% of both generations expect Gen AI to significantly impact their work within the next year.
3/4. So they see it coming.
They do, and they're focused on getting the training they need to adapt to it, to work with it.
Okay, but here's something I found really interesting in the source material. Even as they're focused on these, technical AI skills,
Yeah.
the data also shows they believe the soft skills, things like empathy, leadership, communication, are becoming even more critical.
Yes. It's not an either. It's like they recognize the need for both. The tech skills to work with the AI and the uniquely human skills that AI can't replicate.
Empathy, creativity, critical thinking, that sort of thing.
Exactly. Leadership, too. Which kind of brings us neatly to another key finding, this idea of the manager gap.
A manager gap. Okay, what does that mean exactly? Where's the disconnect according to the survey?
Well, it points to this pretty significant gap between what Gen Z and Millennials want from their managers.
Which is?
Things like real guidance, inspiration, mentorship, coaching,
Yeah.
support for their development, their well-being,
Okay, the dapper stuff.
Right. And what they often feel they get, which according to the survey is often managers who are mainly focused on just overseeing daily tasks, checking boxes, managing output.
So less about developing the person, more about managing the work.
That seems to be the perception for many, yes.
Yeah.
A fundamental difference in expectation.
Wow. So they're not just looking for a boss in the traditional sense. They're looking for more of a coach, a mentor, someone invested in their growth.
Precisely. And the sources are quite blunt about what happens if companies don't bridge this gap, right?
What are the consequences?
Well, the implication is clear. Companies can invest heavily in salary, benefits, flexible working arrangements, all important stuff. But if that direct manager relationship feels stuck in just task management,
Yeah.
these generations, particularly Gen Z, it seems, are much more willing to just leave. They'll actively look for another opportunity where they feel that support and development is actually happening.
So even with good pay and perks, a manager who isn't providing that coaching and development can be the reason people walk away.
That's the takeaway, yeah. Which raises a huge question for organizations, doesn't it?
Which is?
How are they actually developing their managers? Are managers being equipped to be the leaders these generations need, to move beyond just overseeing tasks?
Right. It puts the spotlight firmly on leadership training and development.
Exactly. And this is where the sources started looking at potential solutions, focusing on practical, effective training. We saw some information about organizations trying to tackle this, like one example called the Breakthrough Co.
The Breakthrough Co.
Yeah.
And their focus is on transforming managers.
Yeah, their whole pitch seems to be less about just training and more about transformation, aiming for real changes in manager effectiveness that lead to better business results.
And they make some pretty bold claims, right? Like freeing up significant time for senior leaders, getting measurable results quickly.
They do. They talk about this active learning approach. The core idea seems to be making learning really practical, something you do as part of your daily work, and reinforcing it so it actually sticks, not just a one-off workshop.
Okay, active learning. That sounds different from just, sitting in a classroom for a day.
Yeah.
How does a system like that actually work? What's the structure they described?
So the example program we looked at, their Active Manager program, it runs for 12 months. It's designed for managers and leaders, and it's built around daily practice.
Okay, 12 months. Daily practice sounds intensive.
Well, here's the surprising part. They claim the actual time commitment for the learner is only about 2 hours per month.
2 hours a month. How can you drive real change with just 2 hours? That seems low.
I know, it sounds counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But it's about how that time is used. It's not 2 hours blocked out for a lecture. It's cyclical.
Cyclical. How so?
It involves several components, short online courses, like maybe 20, 30 minutes. And the key is, immediately after, The manager picks one specific skill or technique to practice that day in their actual job.
Okay, so immediate application.
Right. Then there are brief individual coaching sessions, often just 15 minutes, frequently with their own manager who's been trained up as a leader coach.
Ah, so their direct manager is involved in coaching them on the new skills.
Exactly. Plus, they have what they call collab groups. These are like 60-minute sessions where managers get together with peers and a facilitator. They share what they're practicing, troubleshoot challenges, get ideas, support each other.
Peer learning and support. Got it.
And then there are leader reviews, maybe 15, 30 minutes, where the leader coach checks in with the program facilitator about their team members' progress and gets some coaching themselves on how to be a better coach. They even have like a playbook, an active coach playbook, to help guide those conversations.
Okay, so it's layers of reinforcement, online learning, immediate practice, coaching from your manager, peer support, and even support for the manager doing the coaching. It's designed to make it a habit.
That seems to be the idea, making learning continuous and embedded, not separate from the job.
And what kind of practical skills does this type of program focus on, based on the source material?
Well, the topics listed really seem to hit those areas where the survey identified the gap. Things like managing your own capacity. The source even suggested managers could free up maybe 25% of their time by improving this.
Wow, 25%, that's significant.
Yeah. Also, working effectively with the team, better communication, how to handle difficult conversations, which is always tricky, smart delegation, developing actual coaching skills, making better decisions under pressure, and really crucially, that piece about actively developing your people. Not just assigning tasks, but growing their skills.
So the very skills the survey suggests Gen Z and Millennials feel are often missing.
Exactly. It seems designed to directly address that feedback.
And did the sources give any examples of this working in practice, like specific outcomes?
Yeah, there were a couple of testimonials mentioned. One from Urgent Couriers talked about team members putting something they learned in a collab into practice immediately and literally seeing results within days.
Okay, so quick impact.
And another from ITES Engineering mentioned engineers learning to see problems from different angles, thinking more broadly about the business impact, not just the technical fix.
So changing perspectives, leading to wider benefits.
Right. And the overall outcomes claimed for organizations using this kind of approach were things like, better employee retention and engagement, which makes sense if managers are improving, boosted productivity, better team performance, and just generally improved leadership skills across the board. It's framed as a way to help managers make that shift.
From taskmaster to people developer.
That's a good way to put it, yeah.
Okay, so pulling all this together, the big picture from the Deloitte survey seems pretty clear. We've got Gen Z and Millennials driven by this mix. Financial security is foundational, yes, but meaningful work and well-being are just as critical.
Right. And they place a huge premium on learning, on development, and they're looking for managers who are more than just supervisors. They want coaches, mentors, people invested in their growth.
And the sources strongly suggest that ignoring this manager gap, where managers are stuck just overseeing tasks, is a real risk for businesses.
A huge risk for talent retention and performance, yeah. Addressing it seems to require focused practical development for managers, building those crucial coaching and people skills. It's about helping managers evolve.
So, given these shifting priorities, this clear desire for guidance and coaching, and this idea that maybe the top job isn't the only definition of success, here's something to think about for you listening.
Yeah.
How does our traditional idea of what makes a successful manager or leader need to change, like fundamentally change, to really connect with and keep the workforce we have today and the one coming up? What skills should you be focusing on developing, whether you're managing people now, hope to one day, or even just thinking about how you want to be managed yourself?